Welcome back to another No Limits video. This one, we're back on the big green Jeep, so keep working on it. Like the last video, you saw us get it running. You will notice I'm in a bit of a different location. So between the last video and this one, I've had to actually move house. So that's why there's been a couple of week delay in making videos. But anyway, like I said, we'll keep moving forward on the big green Jeep. So yeah, like I said, last video you saw we got it running. So this time, what I need to do, I still have a heap of wiring to do. I've started trying to tidy that up a little bit, and I'll spare you guys what goes into that, but I'll show you some interesting bits while we go. But one of the other things I need to do is, as you see there, the top piece is missing off the motor. So the intercooler, that's one of our other big tasks we have to do for this particular thing. These big full-size Jeeps, the dual cab, sitting here next to it, they have a very nice stylish bonnet, and they don't look right with a bonnet scoop on them. So I didn't want to put a big scoop in it to run the factory top mount intercooler. And as you can see here with the grill out, I don't have a huge amount of room here depth wise to put a big front mount intercooler either. So I've decided I'm going to put a water to air intercooler system on it. And I have the big water to air intercooler, and we'll grab that out. So this is the intercooler I'm going to be running. It's a big water to air unit. It's the biggest one I could actually fit in the space I have. So it will just fit on top of the engine there. But in order to plumb it, I need a big single 3-inch inlet to the motor that goes on that. There's 4 bolts just there. And I spoke to a company in town, and they make a front mount kit for a 79 series. They won't sell me just that top piece without the rest of the front mount kit. So I have to make one. So this is the pit that sits on top of the motor. Normally has its throttle bodies on both sides, and an EGR line goes in the center. So I'm not worried about the EGR side. What I need this to do is actually come up and go back and have a 3 or 3.5 inch inlet just back here on it, and then I can tube around and into the intercooler. So, but like I said, basically no one will sell me just this one part. The only reason they make them for putting a front mount intercooler, which the tube usually comes off in this, or there is a cast one. I think some Legendex, I think it might be, make that go forwards. Neither of those will work for my application. And like I said, they won't actually just sell me just that part. So what I'm going to do is design my own and make it, see how we go. I've really got nothing to lose. So the first thing I did, insert a clip, is I actually took this and put it onto my printer, which has a scanner photocopier part, and I've scanned the bottom of it, and that will give me an accurate outline of what I need to make. Right, so I've taken that scanning. This is a bit hard to see with the light out here. So yeah, took the scan and I've loaded that scan into a program called Fusion 360 and set it up here at the back. And now I'm going to basically trace around it with the program and make a 3D design of what I need to make. So I'll get stuck into that and I'll show you what it looks like when we come back. Alright, so I'm back with a bit of the 3D printing. Printer's all finished. So that would be this piece right here. So, as you can tell, a little bit of time might have passed when I started doing this. So the front end is back off it again. And this is the first one I printed, which is the wrong size. So, I'm not really sure how that happened, but it's gone. So this is number 2 that I've printed. And I'll put it on the right way around. It's correct sizing. So yeah, this just proved that all my file size was right. And yeah, that it was going to fit. So that has now served its purpose. And I've got this one laser cut out of steel. I'm going to put it on the right way around. Right, so now that we have a steel base, I can actually start building a piece from here up to plumb the intercooler into. So let's get stuck into that. Alright, so maybe that actually hasn't finished serving its purpose, that the nice plastic 3D printed one. So my idea is, because where the intercooler comes to on the front side here, I want to bring a 3-inch, which is actually that size, in the back, and then that'll go into a 45, another 45, and straight into the intercooler, which will be about here. So what I'm going to do is make this all out of cardboard and tape it together, and that way I've got a nice pattern and I can convert that into steel and weld it up on the steel flange that I've got. So today's flavour of cardboard is burrito box, because I'm trying to cut down on drinking too many cans of Coke. Carton box would work. There's people that actually buy cardboard for this, but I don't know, this is the same stuff. It's nice and light and it's free, so let's cut this up and see what I can make. Righto, so just with the intercooler sitting on there, started making a cardboard template in the back here. So as you can see, that's how it's all sort of going to sit. Obviously fill the sides in. I've got to put a big plate down the bottom to fill that back gap in. And that's going to have threads cut in it for a couple of hose outlets I need. And a little bit more around the front there to fill it into the front of that piece. But overall, I've got room there to put the outlets to get the water hoses into the intercooler. So that looks like it should work pretty well, actually. Well, I'm going to use this. Alright, I'll get this template out and lay it out on a piece of steel and cut it out and actually start tacking this together. Right, got the template here, laid out in a piece of steel, so I'll mark this out, cut it out, and mark my bends that I need. And yeah, we'll get him mocked up in place. Righto, with this part cut out, I'm going to go ahead and put a hole in it to put my tube before I start bending it, because once I actually fold these it's going to be pretty hard to hole saw a hole here. So while it's still nice and flat, let's knock a hole in that so we can weld this piece of pipe in, which is just 3-inch exhaust tube, but it'll do the job. And I'm going to see if I can roll a bead into this as well, just to give it a bit more security once we get that intercooler pipe on. Alright, so got a nice bead there on the end of this pipe, thanks to my trusty bead roller. Now, so we're just going to drill a hole about here somewhere, so this will be the back face, so we'll drill a hole in here to be able to weld a piece of pipe into. And yeah, then we'll cut this off. Like I said, I'll drill all my holes and everything before I actually start to fold this, and that way it makes life a lot easier. So we'll do that. I've got to add a piece down in here as well to put in a hose barb for the map sensor, a thread to put the intake air temperature sensor in, and I'd like to put another port in to add an external boost gauge, because I just want to run a boost gauge on it. So yeah, so I'll get these marked up and drilled out, and we'll start folding it after that. Alright, so I actually ended up drilling, I bent that angle first before I drilled the hole. That way, if I drilled the hole first and then bent it, it would have, that top corner wouldn't have been right. Hang on, we'll get out the, I'll say sun, but yeah, that top corner wouldn't have pulled really nice if I'd tried to bend it after drilling the hole. But, sort of get the idea. So that's a 3-inch hole with a piece of 3-inch exhaust tubing tapped into it. It's a nice snug fit. So while I've got access, I'm going to actually weld around the outside of it, like weld the inside of this, sorry, before I make this other fold. Because once I make this fold, it's going to be quite hard to get in here. And I don't really want the weld seam on the outside, just for a looks thing. So if I weld it around the inside, it'll look neat and should do the job. So alright, I'll get this tacked up, we'll weld it up, and then we'll move on to folding it and finishing the whole piece off. Terrible as always. Well, there it is. So that's the intake piece I've made. I do still need to drill and tap a couple of ports in here. That's what that big block's for. So that's to give me something fat to drill and tap. So I can put, I've got to put a intake air temperature sensor in it. A spot for the map sensor, which I'm still thinking about mounting the map sensor just off to the side here. And like I said, I just want to put a boost gauge on it just for my own personal thing. But before I go ahead and actually mount the map sensor, I'm still waiting on the silicon tube to go on it, so I can just sort of see how much room that's going to take up and where it's got to mount. And same as I'd also like to have I've got to order the air intake temperature sensor, so that I've got that before I go any further. But anyway, let's put him on and see how it looks on the vehicle. Righto, so it's the intercooler sitting on there. That's where it's going to be located. Made this bracket up. It's just actual angle with most of the side cut off it, and it picks up the 2 bolts here at the front of that intake plenum and a couple of bolts that used to mount the original intercooler. And that's the intake plenum on. As you can see, this is the reason for that narrow top on it and the sloped front. It clears the water fittings, whether there's 2 fittings that got to go on the back of this intercooler. That's where we get the water into it. And then it should be fairly easy to get a tube around into the intercooler once that turns up. It's my boost gauge, so it's just got to go on the back here. Same as the map sensor. It's got to be mounted here somewhere. That's what I'm sort of thinking, but I would like to have the silicon pipe and the intake temperature sensor before I go any further with that part. So, righto, so I'm happy with where that is at the moment. I think I'm going to end the video here. That's sort of as far as I can get until we drill in and tap and stuff when I order some more parts. But anyway, that's the intercooler setup, and we'll do another. Like I said, when I get all the gear to do the water side of it, I'll show you guys that. But for now, I think we're gonna tick that little project off the list. So that's one more thing sorted, and yeah, we'll move on to another thing. But that'll all be in the next video, which I know I've had a big break between videos, so this should have a few coming out reasonably well together again. I've had some time to get back into this thing, so, and like, I want it finished. I know everyone else wants to see it running and driving, so yeah. But anyway, we'll catch you in the next one.